In today's video, we'll be going over yet another PlayStation console that may have been leaked. It's not the PlayStation 5 or anything really related to that. However, we know that Sony's getting into the streaming game. We know that Stadia is a thing. We know that Microsoft is getting into it. Streaming looks to be the way of the future. At least that's what a lot of these companies are thinking. And Sony is definitely big on that given recent events, and we'll take a look at what a new patent is suggesting. We know that this generation with the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One is coming to a conclusion. It's been a great generation in my opinion. The PlayStation 4 exclusives have been stellar. There's been some incredible multi-platform titles like The Witcher 3, Dying Light, Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, Devil May Cry 5, Resident Evil 2. I can go on, and maybe that'll be a video we do in the future. And there are still compelling games that have yet to be released, like Cyberpunk 2077, the Final Fantasy VII Remake, The Last of Us Part 2. This generation is really going out with a bang. However, we know that this generation is concluding, and the Sony PlayStation 5 is being worked on as we speak. However, what if I was to tell you that there is another PlayStation console in the works right now? Spotted by Segment Next, a patent is suggesting that Sony is going to be creating a console that is going to be focusing on streaming, much like Google Stadia. The patent itself relates to a cloud gaming system which was reportedly filed by Sony Interactive Entertainment America with the US Patent Office at the end of last month. It refers to both systems and methods for cloud gaming and goes on to describe various aspects utilized in the process, including streaming of video games. The cloud gaming system implements at least one channel driver to facilitate I/O processing for the one or more client devices when executed by the computing resources of the one or more data centers. That's what it reads directly from the website. Now, there is a lot to unpack with that. I think it isn't a surprise to anyone that Sony is heavily invested into streaming as something to look at in the future. Now, obviously, they are still consistent on direct downloads and offering physical media. The PlayStation 4 is clearly evident of that. However, we see gaming evolving. Last generation, a lot of titles didn't even see a digital release. You could only get them physically, but right from the get-go in 2013 when the PlayStation 4 was released, every game saw a digital release. A lot of games were exclusive digitally, and we're talking about major titles. A lot of games that in the past may have been released physically no longer went that route. They just went with a digital exclusive release. Now, there's a couple of ways to digest that. Yes, that means that there are less physical games. Yes, that means the transition to digital gaming is becoming more and more apparent, but also that means it's easier for a lot of studios and a lot of developers to bring their games out because digital consumption is becoming more and more accepted in the gaming world. So I think it's definitely a net positive overall. What hasn't really garnered a lot of traction and really been invested by the consumer is game streaming. Obviously, Sony is incredibly invested into it. PlayStation Now was a big thing from the get-go on the PlayStation 4. However, it didn't seem like gamers were really on board with it, not until Sony, would you guess, offered direct downloads for the PlayStation 4 game. And then I looked at it and I was like, okay, PlayStation Now is becoming a much more compelling service, even though it's $20 a month, even though it's nowhere near as good as Game Pass. I don't think it's blasphemy in saying that. You look at Game Pass's game offerings with the Microsoft exclusives like Gears of War 5, Devil May Cry 5 being on their Monster Hunter World. The lineup of games on Game Pass, while I believe quantity-wise it is smaller, the quality is just so much superior on Game Pass, and Game Pass is $10 a month versus PlayStation Now being $20 a month. However, PS Now's killer feature is the fact that you can stream games. The issue and the inherent issue with game streaming that is going to make it a lot more different than streaming music, streaming television shows, movies, whatever the case may be, is that gaming is an interactive experience and you need that latency on point, and that means you need top-notch internet connection. Better internet connection than you would need to watch a movie or stream a song. When you're talking about playing a Twitch first-person shooter, you need latency to be on point, and even from someone like myself that has decent internet connection, I'm on a wired connection, I use PlayStation Now, and the experience has definitely been suitable, but I would definitely prefer to have the game on disc or to download it directly because I did notice some latency issues, and again, I have much better internet than most people. What are you going to talk about when you're talking about someone that's on a wireless connection or someone that just doesn't have great internet connection from the get-go? That is going to be an issue with cloud gaming, and it's not like we've seen that really evolve since 2013. It's not like the experience of PlayStation Now has gotten dramatically better or whatever the case may be in regards to game streaming exclusively, so I am a little bit worried about that. And as far as a game streaming exclusive box, I don't know how that's going to resonate with the consumer. I know that publishers, companies, they all think that game streaming is the future. That's why so much money is being invested into it. That's why Sony bought Gaikai. That's why Microsoft is getting into it. That's why Google is really getting into gaming now, because they see a future in game streaming and they're acquiring games like Baldur's Gate 3 A lot of money is being invested into game streaming going into the future, but I don't think it's going to be as captivating as a lot of these companies make. I think gaming is a different animal than when you compare it to movies, music, TV shows. I might be wrong. Maybe it'll climatize and everybody will be streaming games by 2025, 2030, but do I really expect everybody's internet connection to get that much better in just a few years? I'm not completely sold on that. Now, if they do create some compelling way where games are being streamed rather well, even on poorer internet connection, that's one thing, but you also have to bear in mind, it's not like at this point we're getting a much greater value. The Stadia prices are pretty expensive, and it would be one thing if Stadia came out, it was a $100 box, and then the games were super cheap, or I could subscribe $15 a month, and then I get access to all of the newest games. In the case of Netflix, it's $8 a month, and I feel like TV shows and music is something where a lot of people are okay with watching movies of yesterday or watching TV shows of yesterday. In the case of gaming, I do think more so than other entertainment mediums, people do want to be up to date. People do want to play the latest and greatest stuff, and that's why people are still going to the theaters for the biggest movie releases. It's not like theaters have gone to the wayside. People are still spending a lot of money to go to theaters to watch the biggest movies of the year. I know that's not a direct comparison point, and honestly, this video might be coming across as me just crapping on game streaming altogether. I'm just not completely sold on it, and I think a lot of our audience is in the same boat, because whenever I talk about game streaming, it seems a lot of you guys agree in the comment section. You're always like, man, I want to download all my games. I want to buy all my games as a physical medium, whatever the case may be. A lot of you guys are just not completely sold on it. Look, I've been trying to stream games since OnLive. Yes, OnLive. I had the OnLive box, and it just wasn't very good back then, and while it is a lot better for someone like me, I just know that a lot of you guys don't have the best internet connection in the world. You might be in other parts of the world, and I know for a lot of these companies, it is a big investment into the future. This isn't something that they're expecting to be profitable this year, next year, or anytime in the near future. This is a power play for 10, 15, 20 years down the line, where they want to be the juggernaut in the gaming industry, offering a compelling streaming service and offering you all the big games, and they want to get in on it first. I understand it from that standpoint. I just don't know if the world is ready for it at this point, and I don't even know how consumers are going to take to Stadia. People in the gaming industry don't want to go with change. We've seen that on the PC platform Epic Games Store. A lot of PC players have pushed back on that, and that's just talking about another platform that is offering you direct downloads, an experience that is very similar to what has been offered on Steam, although that debate we could have for quite a while. However, in the case of game streaming, exclusive games being released on Stadia, I see a lot of people getting upset by that. Could you imagine if, let's say, Google got an agreement with a major publisher like a Rockstar, and Grand Theft Auto 6 was a Stadia exclusive and you could only stream the game? People would be up in arms, people would be super upset, but would that be enough to get people to invest into game streaming? Baldur's Gate 3 is a title that maybe will get some people to invest in game streaming, but in that sense, it's even worse, because when you talk about PlayStation 4 versus Xbox One exclusives, at least it's a gaming box at the end of the day. When you're talking about exclusives on a streaming platform, it is going to completely change the game. However, it does look like Sony is going to remain incredibly committed to game streaming as a service, and who knows, it might pay off dividends in the future. I might be completely off base, but I think for the foreseeable future, for the next year, for the next 2 years, unless some major exclusive acquisitions are made, unless Sony relegates some games to being streaming exclusive, which that would just turn off a large portion of the audience, and I don't think Sony would go that route, because at that point with Sony, they're just competing with themselves because they have a PlayStation 5, and not releasing your games on the PS5, that's just stupid. But nonetheless, I definitely want to hear what you guys think. Are you excited for the future of game streaming? Is that something you're gonna jump in on if Sony does release a box? And let's say it's super cheap, let's say it's $50 to $100, and let's say they even offer a subscription service that offers a lot of their games super cheap. Is that something you would take a look at? And let me know if you guys have experience with PlayStation Now. I know as far as the subscription service goes, it's not quite as popular as Game Pass, where seemingly everybody that owns an Xbox One is subscribed to Game Pass, because they do make it incredibly accessible, you know, the first month or two for $1 or $2. We don't really have that with PlayStation Now. All we do have is a 7-day free trial. So if you tried out the free trial and you did stream games, let me know how your experience was. Was it a very smooth experience like mine? Or again, are you like one of those that did have a pretty rocky experience and you're not completely sold on streaming as a whole in gaming? And what your overall thoughts are on streaming? Is it something where if the service was good enough, you would forego physical and downloaded games altogether and jump on a streaming platform? Let me know in the comment section down below and sound off with all of your thoughts. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.